It's the Australian Leadership Project, Victor Perton, and we are delighted to be joined by the Australian health innovator, Anne Crawford. Welcome to the Australian Leadership Project, Anne.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you for allowing me to present on your program.
As you know, one of the first questions we ask is, what's your favourite story of a leader in your life? So what is your favourite story and who is your leader in your life?
Well, interestingly, Victor, from my personal perspective, it is my husband, Bruce Crawford, who is in fact a highly regarded research scientist, world renowned, and he's supportive, and he's been encouraging me to step outside myself and do things that I probably wouldn't have done in the past. Because he's my husband, he's shown me that, everybody that I speak to is a person, and, they have their own little personalities, and to not be shy, which is something that I have been in the past. So my husband is my sincerest leader.
There must be some great conversations around the dinner table and pillow talk on health and science. And as you know, one of the core questions we ask in the Australian Leadership Project is, what are the unique qualities of Australian leadership? And you've travelled abroad, you've worked in all sorts of environments. What do you see as the key elements of Australian leadership?
I think Australian leaders are genuine, down-to-earth, generous, and tend to be optimistic. And I think that sounds a little bit ingenuous to say that, but I think that we all appreciate leaders in Australia who are able to be humble, are able to, have that sense of humour and speak to us at any level. That's the way. It's sort of egalitarian type of leadership.
Oh no, I think well summarised. You've really picked up the themes that so many people have talked about. Again, one of the core questions and the thing we're really trying to discover is, what do Australians want of their leaders today? You're working at the cutting edge of the client, the patient, and the medical system. So you see a lot of people in need of leadership. So what is it that Australians want of their leaders today?
I think it goes back to that, down to earth and generous style that we often look to. That, we have culturally this tall poppy syndrome. We don't like people who big note themselves and try to be over the top, like, say, Donald Trump. We have, and this can be a little bit problematic when we're talking in a multicultural community that we live in Australia, because people present themselves quite differently depending on their cultural background. But I think, it still comes back to, we like leaders that are open and honest and generous to a fault. I think that's what we look for.
Oh, thank you, Anne. And I mean, as a child, you grew up in Papua New Guinea. You've had interesting experiences. So who have been the leaders in your life? Who has inspired you? Obviously, you've talked about your husband, but who else in that rich life you've led so far?
Well, I guess I've always been a fairly pretty much a go-getter. I've always been curious. I always want to do well in anything that I do. So, and my parents' lifestyle meant that we were challenged, and we were able to develop our artistic and our literary background, I guess, and I think that meant that we, you know, when I was in primary school, I learned about being an exchange student, and I thought that's something I really want to do. And then as soon as I was old enough to be able to apply for an exchange student program, I did exactly that. And I wanted to challenge myself and go to a country that had a different culture and a different language. And so I went to Indonesia, which was an absolutely amazing experience. Difficult at times, but you know, it it kind of meant that, you know, my parents were able to give me those opportunities, and they really have supported me as in my early years. Later in life, of course, I had a lot of support from my, and again, this is very personal, from my aunt, Felicity Smith, who's just received an Order of Australia Medal, because she was very much involved in the community. She was a volunteer, very passionate about, you know, lifting people up and helping people to, you know, have healthy lives, and providing them with opportunities to develop work and engagement in community. So, and she's been, you know, she's a fairly loud and brash kind of person, but she's been wonderful support, and you know, encouraged me to develop my own skills as a leader.
Oh, fascinating. And such a rich history. Indonesia, Papua New Guinea. It's must have been an amazing formative period to help you develop your innovation and courage. And you are, I mean, we've met several times now and communicated via social media and the like. You seem to me to be a real optimist, to have an optimism about you. So what is it that makes you optimistic? What is your case for optimism?
Well, I think that, you know, I've been a very lucky person. Australia is a lucky country, and it still is. Um, we have opportunities to be able to, you know, be innovative and take risks, and you know, our society isn't hemmed in by a class structure or a strict, rigid um, system whereby we can't actually step out. We are able to step out, and try things. And if they fail, we have a really good safety net within Australia, which allows us to, you know, take a step back and try again. So the risk, the the Australia is a great country to have a strong, innovative program. We have scientists who've developed things like the black box and the you know, the discovery of the Helicobacter pylori bacteria that once it used to be thought that stress caused ulcers in the stomach, and now we've got this, you know, wonderful way of dealing with this very, very diffuse problem in a very simple way. And you know, that's Australia. We should be proud.
Terrific. And Anne, in our conversations, you've talked about writing a book. You've talked about an innovative new way of finding the right services for people within the health system who need care. Do you want to share a little bit of that with us? I know the book hasn't been launched yet, and the service hasn't been launched yet, but what can you share about your thinking in this cutting edge relationship between the patient and the doctor?
Well, I think we in the medical system, we've become really far in supporting evidence-based practice, where you know, we have a very, very constrained structure with the medical teams providing care. What's gone missing a little bit from that system is the time that we used to have to spend with our patient, our client, and talk to them about what their worries and concerns are. And I think this is where, you know, when you have a complex medical background, it's really hard for people to understand the issues that might come out of that. So I think that we need what we call healthcare coaches. So it's quite different to health coaching in that it's talking about the system-wide approach to care. We have a great system, but navigating your way through it can be quite difficult, and people get lost very quickly. So having someone there who acts like a mentor, who coaches you through that process, means that you've got one person at the centre who can help you, help your GP, help the medical system, ensure that you're transitioning across the system in a supported way. So that's basically what I'm trying to set up, is the healthcare coaching program. And it came out of, I had an eye injury about 3 years ago, and as my nature is, I decided, okay, how can I train myself to use the computer and be more active in the society? So I wrote a book. And through that process, the ideas for the healthcare coaching program came out quite strongly. It was the book is about different case studies and how people have managed to fall through the cracks and how they managed to get back in and get their problems sorted out. So it's a positive book, but it has, you know, it shows people how things can go missing within their care and what they can do as individuals to manage their way through. Things like, you know, knowing that the doctors don't have enough time to tell you what's going on. So if you've got a lot of questions, you need to find some way to get those questions answered properly. Knowing that, you know, the best person to be your central medical health professional is your GP, and establishing that relationship. So there's just a couple of things that came out of it, but I think the healthcare coaching program would sit alongside that very well.
You know, I've got the impression there's been adversity, resilience, courage, and now this mission to help, which, as you say, you know, is deeply ingrained in your family background and through your relationship with your aunt Felicity Smith. So look, we really wish you well. We thank you for taking the time to spend with us on this project, and look forward to meeting you again in the near future. And to all of you, if you'd like to share your insights and wisdom into Australian leadership, feel free to join us on our website, australianleadership.com. Thanks to Anne, and thanks to all of you.